Hi founders, today we're going to be talking about the 3 big B2B SaaS mistakes that I see founders make when they're trying to grow their ARR and things that you can do to mitigate those risks and make sure that you don't fall prey to them. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into this. Oh, by the way, this is my first YouTube video, and if you're watching this, you're probably one of like 3 people. Hi mom, give it a like and a comment or a subscribe if you want to support the channel or give me a chance here. First up, I'm going to start with a caveat saying that these are by no means hard and fast rules or laws that apply to all startups out there. The clients that I work with, they tend to be business-to-business software companies. Typically, you're going to see contract values above $5,000 to $10,000. So this isn't like a $10 a month or $15 a month subscription. So everything I'm saying is about this, okay? Some of it may apply to consumer as well. I'm just not a B2C expert, so I definitely don't want to position myself like that. First mistake is most founders I talk to tend to try to sell and market to too many segments at once. What this looks like in practice is they have a pricing package for enterprise, for mid-market, for SMB, for prosumer, maybe in different verticals. So they're targeting like different company sizes, different geographies, and they're just all over the place. The reason that this is a problem is it's going to slow you down big time. The impact is that you're going to dilute your message, you're going to be talking to too many different people at the same time, right? Because if you think about it, even just in banking, there's a big difference between a small local credit union and Chase in terms of procurement, in terms of the buying committee, who it makes up, who you actually have to contact, the things that they care about, right? Chase might care a lot about integrations, whereas the smaller credit union might just care about how quickly you can get started and they can get value from your solution. The other problem is that you're often going to dilute your message. So founders realize quickly that they can't talk to that many people and create really targeted content and really targeted outbound campaigns to all these different people. So what they end up doing is they end up kind of creating the average persona and talking really to no one. They talk to the average of all their different personas, but they don't end up actually speaking really powerfully or really in a really compelling way to one person in particular that could actually grow their business. So the impact is that growth slows down, you don't get the conversion rates you want, it doesn't seem like people are interested in what you're selling, and it's just a vicious cycle, right? So we want to avoid that. The solution here is to focus in on your most profitable one. There's many different ways that you can pick your best segment, and I think you have to consider all of the different constraints that you have on your business. So what I mean by constraints or boundary constraints are, is there a segment that you don't want to go after for legal or regulatory reasons? Sales cycle. So one segment might be an 18-month sales cycle, one might be a 3-month. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, it just depends, can you float 24 months of marketing and selling without actually getting $1 in the door during that period. So this is more appropriate, right, for funded, long runway enterprise sales teams, right? So here's the solution to having too many segments that you can serve and how to pick one segment that you can actually focus on and really get clarity with your messaging and your process and everything, right? Essentially what you want to do, what I like to do with my clients is we take their sales cycle. So from, we take the lead cycle and the sales cycle and then the payment cycle if we're optimizing for cash flow. We pick one metric that we're aiming for and we add up the whole sales cycle from the initial contact all the way through to dollars in the bank, or if you don't care about cash flow, then you can scale it back to just contract signature date. And we figure out what is the average sales cycle for different segments. And so what you want to do is you want to go, this takes a little bit of legwork. You want to go export all of your Stripe, your CRM, your payment data, everything, and put in a spreadsheet and figure out all your different customers, and then categorize them. So look at all your customers and then think of different ways you can categorize them: small, medium, large, different verticals, different geographies, whatever. Once you have your segments defined, go through and categorize each company. And then once you have them all categorized, now you can standardize with the revenue generated, right, and the sales cycle. You can standardize all of that to revenue per selling day, and then exclude any that exceed a certain boundary constraint. So if you say, I don't want to go after any segment that takes more than 9 months to sell, then we just exclude that right off the bat. And then we look at your whatever segments are left and rate them in terms of how quickly they generate the metric that you're trying to go for. Whether that metric is gross margin, whether it's ARR, whatever it is, okay? Now, once you have that, then you can decide what segment you want to go after, and that makes things a lot simpler. Now, mistake number 2 is undercharging. So it's very frequent that I speak to a founder that's charging a couple $100 a month, $300 a month, and they think that that's good. But when you look at the value that they're delivering to their customers, you look at, if you build a simple ROI calculation, typically you can figure out that they're massively undercharging. There's a couple of reasons that this is a problem. First, obviously, you're not capturing as much value upfront as you could be. 2, you're not growing as fast as you can. 3, you're limiting the channels that you can grow on by having a smaller ACV and smaller margin per deal. But the other problem is that you're also not going to be taken as seriously by buyers. So one time I was selling to a nonprofit, a big nonprofit organization. They had an RFP, and we responded for what our company at the time, it was the biggest RFP that we had ever answered, and it was a $2 million package, services and everything, right? Support and maintenance and all that. And we thought that was big, and we were kind of holding our breath. We were like, $2 million? And they came back later and told us that we lost the deal. And when we did a debrief call with our stakeholder, who was gracious enough to do that, we found out that it was because we were actually too cheap. And there was another organization, I think it was Deloitte or one of those consulting companies, came in at like a $13 million quote. And we're like, man, we can do it way cheaper than that. But we didn't manage to resuscitate the deal because I guess the buying committee there just didn't take us seriously compared to Deloitte, who just came in with this crazy high bid. And so understandably, that's the cost of not charging enough. So the solution, how do we increase our price without completely killing our deals? Well, there's a bunch of micro improvements around sales process, the questions you're asking, how you're positioning. That's all part of a holistic program to get there. But the first step that you want to do is look at all of the different value that you deliver to customers. And so really simple, you just open up a spreadsheet. In one tab you have costs, in another you have revenue, and you brainstorm all the different ways. You can also do this in Miro, but spreadsheets are good because then you can do calculations. And you want to brainstorm all the different ways that your solution touches the costs and the revenue. What a lot of people get wrong is they try to position solutions in B2B without focusing on the fact that ultimately everything in B2B is a wealth offer, right? There's health, wealth, and relationships. And if you aren't focused on improving one of those for your stakeholders, you're going to have a really hard time selling them something. So with that in mind, you want to think of, how does my solution reduce operating expenses or increase revenue? All right, so one example of how you can do this is with operating expenses. You want to think through things like the salary that it costs a person, and think of the fully loaded salary, not just the hourly rate, but also all the benefits, the vacation, the travel, the trade shows, all the accompanying software that goes with it. Simple ways: you take their salary and then you add on like 20 to 50%, and you can say that's the fully burdened rate of that employee. And you say, okay, my solution saves you $50 an hour of labor plus labor and all the different costs. And that labor typically spends, that person spends, 10 hours a week on this. So that's $500 a week times, every month, it's saving you $2,000. And then you extrapolate that, right? $24,000 in savings. So right there, if your solution is a portion or a fraction of that pricing, you're partway there. And then if you can expand that to, and you have 10 teams doing this, so it's a $240,000 cost that we can help streamline if we can deploy to these 10 different teams. Now, I'm not a big fan of just focusing on operating expenses, and this is one of the pitfalls I see founders do, is they just focus on savings. But in reality, the way that you're gonna be able to generate a very compelling ROI or business case is by thinking through the ways that you can impact revenue. And there are a multitude of ways that your solution, maybe not in an obvious sense, but if you think second and third order effects, can improve revenue growth and margin, right? So think of things like speed to lead. Does your solution help them get back to customers faster? Does your solution help them with customer satisfaction? Perfect. Well, if it does, that means that it helps them lower churn, which means it increases the lifetime value, which means that the marketing team can spend more money getting customers, or they can just capture that margin as profit, or they can reinvest it in R&D and develop faster and accelerate the product growth. There's many different ways that you can think of revenue growth. Very simplistically, right? Generate more leads, convert more of them at higher prices. Those are the three main levers that you're gonna be able to play with to generate a compelling business case on revenue growth. All right, so the other way that you can increase your pricing and justify it to your customers, aside from building an ROI calculator and backing into it based on a fraction of the value that you're delivering, is you want to now think of all the different things that you can add in that maybe don't cost you that much, but can increase the value of what you're doing. Alex Hormozi has a great book on this, and I highly recommend it. It's called $100 Million Offers. I go through a modified version of this with all of my clients, where we basically look at all the different assets that you have internally and that are already built or that can be built fairly easily. Think of things like data or templates or SOPs, spreadsheets, video training, onboarding, things like that. that you can roll into and just talk about what you're doing for your customers and build another package based on that. Also, if you have things like an audience already pre-built through your solution, maybe there's an advertising thing where you can say for enterprise partners, get a free mention in our newsletter. Integrations, free integrations for enterprise customers. If you say, if you buy $50,000 or more with our enterprise package, we include one free integration. The fun thing for you is that now you have an integration that you can market to other people. All right, so a really simple way to go through this exercise and actually come up with some tangible things that you can include that are really high value is to make a 2x2 matrix in Miro, or even just on a whiteboard or a pen and paper, whatever you want. And with a co-founder or advisor, whoever you're working with, go ahead and brainstorm a bunch of different ideas and just do a big brain dump of the ideas first. The y-axis is going to be the perceived value of what you're offering your customers. And the x-axis is going to be the cost to you to deliver that. So think of things here like if you had a custom report that you do for every enterprise customer that is very, very valuable, that to them normally they spend $10,000 on to get custom reports from analyst firms like Accenture and whatever, well, you can put that in the upper right quadrant. It's a very high perceived value, but a very high cost to you as well. You can layer some of those into your offering as well, but you just want to make sure you don't have too many of them where it's really, really hard to deliver, right? So once you have all your ideas on paper, you place them and organize them in the quadrant, and then you can vote for the ones that you want to actually implement. For the small package, we're going to do this. For the enterprise package, we're going to offer all these extra bonuses and things that are included. And that's a really straightforward way to quickly improve the perceived value of the packages that you're offering customers. And then the fun thing too is you can test a lot of this on sales calls. So with customers, just say, hey, by the way, we're running a promotion right now. Next quarter, we're including all of these extra bonuses, and it's going to include this, which means that you can do this, and blah, blah, and, focus on benefit, focus language. So that is how I do it with clients. I basically just do that, and we figure out ways that we can add value without massively increasing the costs. Okay, so the third big mistake that I see founders making is just not doing enough volume. When I say volume, obviously I mean like things like outreach, right? So reaching out to customers, reaching out to prospects, reaching out to net new leads that you've never spoken to before. But I also mean things like following up on existing opportunities, right? Just a lot of founders will send one or two follow-ups and say, well, the deal's dead and that's it. But if somebody was talking to you before and they had an opportunity, it just means that maybe it's not the right time if they stop responding. And realistically, that person should be getting at minimum a monthly follow-up message from you forever until they tell you like there's nothing here, I'm not interested anymore, right? Most channels today are more crowded than ever. So the barrier to entry has gone down for a lot. And it just means that there's a lot more noise. And so you're gonna have to do a little bit more effort to stand out. The other thing is on content. So I see a lot of founders, just posting a monthly blog or a quarterly blog, or they do it for, 1 quarter, they do a few blog posts and then they just drop it, or they post on social for a little bit. I'm guilty of this myself, right? I'm far from perfect. It's something that they underestimate the amount of volume they have to do to get the results they want. So marketing and sales really does require dedicated inputs from founders on a sustained basis and at a high volume. There are tools today that let you reach a much higher volume with AI, with automations for cold email and things like that. And it's not enough to send 100 cold emails a day or 50 cold emails a day. These days, you have to be thinking, how can I send 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 cold emails a day to hit the goals that I have for my business? Another way to think about this is that even with really low response rates, even if you have a campaign that's just kind of like mid-performance and it's not doing that great, and I would qualify this as like 1 to 3% response rates on cold email, but you just throw a bunch of volume into that campaign, you're going to be able to get absolute interesting results, right? Say getting a 1% reply rate, well then just go 5x your volume and you're going to get 5x the results, right? As long as your data, your lead data and stuff, that stays constant. But that's the point, is people just underestimate the amount of effort and the amount of volume they have to put into sales and marketing to actually get the results they want. If you look at really good marketers too, even outside of cold outbound, the best content creators are putting out tons of posts every day. The best advertisers are putting out tons of different creative every week, right? They're testing hundreds, dozens of different ad creatives every week to find out what works. They're not just putting 2 or 3 variants and hoping for the best. They're constantly refining and putting out a lot of volume into the universe. That's how you're going to see the results that you want. So the solution here is that you need to set aside the time to do the work and find efficient ways to get the work done, right? Look at things like ChatGPT prompts that you can use, different content automation tools, different cold email tools that can automate a lot of your follow-up. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at it. There's a ton of information. That's outside of scope for this video. I'll make others on that. Let me know if you want some videos on that kind of stuff. But that's the easiest way. So look into how you can streamline and automate a lot of things, but also just set aside time every single day, every single week to work on distribution and growth, because that really is the crux of competition in 2024 for SaaS companies. It's not the building the product, it's distributing and getting eyeballs and attention and conversions on your product, okay? All right, so in conclusion, too many segments. You want to focus in on one segment by picking the most profitable one that generates the most results in the least amount of time based on what you're optimizing for at your life stage. 2, you're probably undercharging, so think about ways that you can add more value without massively increasing your costs, and also do an ROI calculation so you can figure out exactly how you can back into a value that makes sense and makes it a no-brainer, 5 to 10x ROI for your customers. And 3rd, you're probably not doing enough volume of outreach, content, ads, whatever marketing activities or channel you've chosen. Do 10 times more volume and find a way to get to 10 times more volume of that channel to get much better results. All right, so that's it, folks. If you enjoyed that, let me know how I can help you more in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that, and yeah, look forward to making other videos. All right, see ya.